Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 6 of my new HO scale layout. I haven't done a lot, so this will probably be a shorter video, but I have done enough to show progress here. So, starting with a little plywood that I put over the swing gate here, so I can just test out how things are gonna, transition. I always try to go for the difficult spots first when I build layouts, because those are the ones that are going to dictate the easy stuff, which is just the long runs and things like that. So anything that's moving part or turnout or inclines, things like that, I usually try to go for first, get those out of the way, and then connecting is a lot easier. So this lines up nicely. Still opens up nicely. Just a matter of laying the track and then cutting gaps, and hopefully I'm going to learn how to solder into some screws to really hold that in place. So I'm going to put 2 wood screws under there, and then take some of the ties out, right at the cutting point where I'm going to solder those rails to those screws. At least that's the technique that I saw, and people have recommended that to me. So we're going to try to do that. Somebody recommended also doing some kind of adjustable system where if it's a little bit off because of expansion or whatever, I could, there's a way to like move it a little bit, or somehow dial it in. So that's that. The biggest thing that I've done is the transition between the flat plywood, because I don't know if I've mentioned this, but the entire yard area, which is this here, is going to be just flat. I'm just going to use the old system, which is flat plywood, track on the cork, and that's it, just to be safe. And I don't want cars rolling around anyway. And then once I get out of here, then this is where the spline system actually comes into play. The only thing is that the reason why I use plywood here is because the spline is 2 inches deep. So I didn't want to have to either cut into the support beams or cut the spline to hook it on top of that. I think that would just be a mess. So what I did is I took the same plywood, I tied it in here using a nice thick support so it's nice and so it grabs on nicely. And then I just started lifting it at about close to 2%. I started actually a little lighter. I started like a 1.5 so that it transitions nicely. It's not like a big jump. And then once I got to the 2-inch mark, which I measured right here. So basically the formula is if you want a 2% grade, it's every 8 feet you should have about 2 inches of height. So 8 feet, then the next 8 feet, that would be your 4-inch mark, and then 6, and so on and so forth. So this is where I marked my 8-foot, 2-inch rise. So I brought the wood up to that point, and then from there, obviously, I tied it in. Now the spline work is really firm. What I did is, I did the regular tying of the splines together, and then I drove, I don't know if you can see them in there, 3-inch deck screws through the spline into the support beam, and man, is that solid. And also having them 1 foot apart with a deck screw on each one of those, that's not going anywhere. Obviously, once I started to gain height here, I went on to doing the supports that I can lift. So I just used 2 screws to lock those risers in. And in the future, if I need to lift or drop, it's just a matter of getting those to, I can move those. And the deck screw is connected to these things, not to here. So if I need to lower this or raise it, it's still connected to the, to that. So yeah, this is coming out nice. It's so easy to work with this stuff. Somebody mentioned, I don't know, I've been getting 2 schools of thought about using Homasote. Some people say it's amazing. It doesn't warp. It doesn't change with weather, with climate change, it doesn't absorb any moisture. That's one school of thought. And some people said that they've had it for 15, 20 years and nothing has ever gone wrong. It stayed true. And then there's another opposite extreme saying that the Homasote absorbs water and moisture, especially when you're working on the track with like the wet water or the alcohol or whatever it is, and it warps everything. They also say that it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold its shape, that after a while it just starts to get all weird. So, I'm trying to figure out what to, I'm hoping the first theory is the one that's accurate, or at least I hope I have the same luck as those people, because I don't want to set this up perfectly and then, a year from now everything's warped because I put ballast and alcohol and whatever and paint. So one person said I should seal it before I actually started putting my track down. I don't know if that means seal it with like paint, like I should paint the surface and the sides just to like give it some kind of waterproofing or moisture, resistance. But I don't know. That kind of like freaked me out a little bit, even though, listen, I've seen plenty of layouts with this method and it looks like it's, just as bomb-proof as other methods. In fact, I've heard worse things about wood, because wood does move. Wood, like any other, like anything you do with wood, it tends to move. So, I thought this would be a better situation than using wood spline, but I guess everything's got its own pros and cons. So yeah, so anyways, whatever. This is what I'm going with, and if I have to, if it turns out to be a debacle at the end, which I doubt, I guess I'll have to find some kind of alternative solution. So I'm kind of, I'm plugging away, and hopefully, if I start to see problems early on, I'll switch it out with something else. But I've seen people use this method for the entire layout, never have any problems. I've seen people use that method, never have any problems. I've seen people use wood, never have any problems. So I think they all work, theoretically. I mean, it's just how careful you are with putting it all together, I think, is the bigger difference. So I'm gonna go with that. I do, obviously, I'm laying the track, but it's just sitting on the surface right now just to see where my radius is going to be. This is a 36, which is a nice wide curve, and I just ordered a curved Pico turnout to go into what's going to be some kind of industry back there. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but something. So I just measured it by flipping it over. That's my system when I don't have the actual turnout. So that's coming in the mail. Once I get that, then I'll be able to put it all together and test it. But obviously I'm going to have cork road bed like this under the track anyway, to give some kind of soft and sound barrier type, especially on the wood type thing. But I'll tell you what, I've been running the train that's already hooked up in the staging yard over there, just on the Homasote, and it is quiet. It is so quiet. Oh my goodness. My last layout was N scale, and it made a lot of noise, while I was just on the bare wood. I can only imagine with the weight of HO how noisy that would be. So yeah, I'm even debating using Homasote just flat, like big sheets in the yard, so that it knocks out some of the sound, because I'm sure it's going to be loud once it gets on there, especially the mainland that's going to be going around. I mean, if I'm just switching cars, it's at a low speed, so I don't really think that's going to produce a lot of noise. But the main track on the back, I might have to adapt it in some kind of way with the Homasote. We'll see. So I took the track, nice wide curve. I used the 2x4 and a little piece of 1x3, I think it is, just to give it a little more distance from the wall, because a mistake that I made on my last layout was that I put the I put the track way too close to the wall, and then I had no way of putting any scenery back there. Now it's not a lot. I wish it was more, but it is enough to put a little hill here, to build up a little hill with maybe a few trees up high so that it clears the track, and then have the photo backdrop kind of pull it away from the track. But I didn't want to come in any further because this is where I'm going to have a lot of industry, and there's going to be another line that comes through here. So before I get to let me just show you what's going on here. So this is climbing. It's still at 2%. When I get to here, which again is a nice, beautiful sweeping curve here, this is going to be a gate or some kind of a lift out section. So I think what I'm going to do here is go back to wood. I'm going to build a nice thick, sub road bed here for this to happen, this little section here to happen. I don't know, the reason I'm doing that is because I don't know how I would make this. I mean, it's sturdy, but it's not going to be like a shelf. Like I want to make it like super durable. So I might do like wood, with the cut here, and then wood again, and then do this, so tie it in like around here somewhere. Or I might just run the Homasote right to the wood shelf, so that I can get past this, and then once I hook up back into the main part of the layout, then I can go back to the Homasote. I got to figure that out still. I got to see if I can come up with some technique. If anybody has any ideas, I would appreciate any feedback. And then the idea is that once it makes this curve, I'm gonna have to really hug that corner there, which I'm kind of upset about. I was gonna go through the wall and then come out here, but I really don't feel like breaking a hole in the wall already. Maybe I'll make a little tunnel or something here just to kind of mask that sharp edge, because I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get the backdrop to look smooth there. And then obviously this is going to, once I figure out how much room I have to make this turn here, so that it's hugging the divider that's going to be here for the peninsula. And again, I don't want to get too close to the wall because then I can't put a backdrop on there without it looking silly. So I got to come off the back a little bit and then start heading out so that I can make the big turn onto the staircase, and then mimic the same turn on the other side and continue that way, but now it'll be about 12 inches higher or more. So that'll actually start my second deck right there. On the other side, where this track is coming, that's going to be, it's going to act as two things. Number one is going to be like a sort of a short line, where it's going to, kind of parallel this line, but as this goes up, this stays flat. And then it's going to, I'm going to make a little wedge here. It's going to go on the closer side of the bench work, and then it's going to have a spur, or a few spurs to do industries all in here. Either that, or I'm going to go kind of like a diagonal, so that I can have facing and trailing spurs and industries on both sides of the track. But anyways, whatever I decide to do, once I get to this point, it's going to again get close to the other track that's already significantly higher. I'm not sure if I'm going to build some kind of a bridge scene with water here, like some kind of river or what, but anyways, the route that it's going to take is through here, but then once it gets here and the upper level starts to cross over, this is going to duck under. So there's going to be a bridge, and the other track's going to duck under, and that's how it's going to make it onto the other side of the layout. And on this deck, since I'm not going to have, the track that's climbing is going to keep climbing. So by the time it gets here, like I said before, it's going to be 12 inches higher. So this is completely for the short line, all this area here. So that's where I'm going to have more industries and switching puzzles and whatever I have to do. So that's the first the first goal for that line. But the other reasoning behind it is that what I've tried to imagine is that the trains that come out of staging are coming out of, you know, the southern part of New York, like you know, whatever, near Manhattan, or coming out of Jersey or whatever. And as they come up, you know, the idea is that this is going to serve as a time maker. So, you know, this is all going to be scenic, so it's going to seem like you're just going up. So this would be like at around, you know, what I imagine this would be like, you know, the Hudson Valley kind of line. And then once it gets here, now you're still traveling, in my mind, you're still traveling north, even though, you know, this is already the other scene. But because you're on this line, it's going to seem like you have to make more time. So this is still, you're traveling north from, you know, from where you started. And then the idea is that now you're on top of the staging. So when you get to here, now you're entering Binghamton, which is going to be this yard here. So the layout really starts here. But all that time that it took for the train to get around is significant, because that would be like almost like traveling north to Binghamton. And then here, this is all Binghamton Yard. You know, I'm going to try to grab some things from, you know, from the internet to see what kind of things Binghamton Yard has. Maybe I could model some of that stuff. And then from there, it continues north. But now, see, there's no way, I don't want the staging track to connect to the other main, which is going to be back here. So it's supposed to be completely independent. It's forcing the session, whoever's here for the session, is forcing them to not be able to just cross over and jump on the other track. You know, you'll have to go all the way around to connect to the actual main line. And then once you come up and you start climbing, then eventually you get to Schenectady, turn around, come back down. And then when you make it down here, you still can't connect here. So it's not like you can jump over and go down to staging. You still have to go around the whole layout, duck under, and then hook up here and down to staging, which would then be, you know, points south. Again, you know, down to New Jersey or whatever. So that's the idea as far as like you're running sessions. Right now I'm a little bit, you know, I'm moving things along, but I'm trying to figure out with the equipment that I have what I can do. I also ran out of lumber, so I can't even, you know, the idea was that I would finish the island or most of the bench work for the island so that I can figure out that curve. So maybe I'll do that next. But I still have to make sure that I finish the staging tracks and test them within the island. So it's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? But I ordered a bunch of turnouts, rights and lefts, so I can, you know, hopefully, and more tracks, so I can hopefully finish the staging at some point soon. Because I can't do anything on top. I can't do anything permanent on top yet until I finish my staging, because again, it's a shallow situation here. So I want to make sure that if I need to reach in from the top to do any soldering or gluing or whatever, that it's easy. I don't have to be, you know, crawling in there. That's priority. Priority is finish the staging completely, test it, make sure there's no derailments, make sure all the switches are working, and then start working on the details on top. And also I want to make sure that I put the backdrop, you know, the masonite up before I do anything, because I made the mistake last time. I waited to put the masonite up, and then I was like, you know, cutting weird angles and trying to shove it in there, and it was, you know, it was a pain. So I want to get my backdrop in as soon as possible. This way I can get my photo backdrop up, you know, and then I'll start doing all the scenery in front. I'm already kind of, you know, getting in my own way here, so I want to make sure that I get everything in place because I'm already gonna have to, you know, slide the backdrop down or at least make it so that, you know, it hides a little bit back there. So that's another thing that's, you know, what came first, chicken or the egg type thing. But we'll see. Hopefully I can get it all in a good sequence and it'll be done correctly. All right, so that's update number 6. I'll see you on update number 7.